Good morning, everyone. This is Jimmie Prow with the Engineering CAD Systems Office. Today we're teaming up with the Roadway Design Office. John Mauthner will be speaking here in just a minute to discuss the recent Roadway Design Bulletins. John, you want to take over?
Yes, my name is John Mauthner. I'm the Design Standards Manager. And to give a brief history here, we've had some issues with the Design Bulletin that went out, and we've decided that we needed to go ahead and hold this webinar to try to see if we can't clarify some of those issues. The first thing that I'd like to do is I've got the Roadway Design Bulletin 12-16 up on the screen, and the first thing that I'd like to look at is the background. Perhaps the background should have been up front. Maybe that would have helped clarify a lot of what's going on. But according to the background, the department desires to move towards quicker implementation of items that can bring significant cost savings, bring important new technology online, and address critical safety issues. Combined with our continued desire to make our contract documents as clear as possible, revised index drawings shall be included in the contract plans for which they apply. I'm going to go back to the beginning. The subject is inclusion of revised index drawings in the plans, and this bulletin introduces a new requirement for including revised index drawings into the contract plan set prior to project letting dates. Under the requirements, the first thing that we require is we needed to revise the Plans Preparation Manual Volume 2, Section 3.6, and we needed to add the following new section after the last paragraph. The Section 3.6.1 is titled Revised Index Drawings, and it stated that a complete list of revised index drawings shall be placed on the left side of the lead key sheet below the last sheet listed in the index of plans and above the governing standards and specifications note. When revisions to the design standards are incorporated into the project design, only those revised index drawings shall be appended and listed as follows. And the listing is, the list of revised index drawing is the title, the index number, and the sheet number, and then under index number you'd put, in this case, the only one we have for the 2013 booklet is the 11871, and that was sheet number 1. We had several questions regarding the listing and the appending. Listing derives directly from listing the revised index drawing on the key sheet as shown in this section that's 3.6.1. Appending means to add that sheet to the plan set, and in this case we're going to do that electronically, and Jimmie Prow is going to cover that in his segment. The next section that we're going to look at is the section B, Revise the Plans Preparation Manual, section 3.8, Governing Standards and Specifications, as follows. The year of the governing design standards and the standard specifications for road and bridge construction shall be inserted in a note at the lower left corner of the contract plan's lead key sheet. That's what we've been doing all along. This is just restating that. The design standards are published and released as an annual e-booklet posted on the Roadway Design Office website. The complete volume is published on an annual cycle. An effective implementation date is issued by Design Bulletin and coincides with the beginning of the calendar year, which is January 1 each year. The e-booklet is published and released July 1, 6 months prior to its effective date. We did have a question on the implementation date. The implementation date is issued by the Design Bulletin. We do not have to put an implementation date on the actual key sheet itself. The next paragraph reads, revisions to the design standards produced by the department between regularly scheduled releases of the design standards e-booklet are accomplished by issuing design bulletins for all applicable revised index drawings. One or more of these revisions may be incorporated into the contract plans by listing the revised index drawing number with associated sheet number under the list of revised index drawings on the contract plan's lead key sheet. Design bulletins and revised index drawings are issued in portable document format and posted on the Roadway Design Office website. Revisions will be issued on an as-needed basis to effect changes of immediate concern. The effective date for the implementation of revised index drawings will be issued via Design Bulletin. When this occurs, an email notification will be sent to district design engineers and registered plans preparation manual holders, and that's done via the contact mailer. The appropriate revised index drawing number with associated sheet number shall be listed on the lead key sheet below the last index of plan sheet and above the governing standards and specifications note. List and append only those revised index drawings which are applicable to the project. And again, we had several questions about listing and appending. You list the applicable revised index drawing by its index number and the actual sheets that were revised. Appending means to actually add that component into the plan set, which again, like I said, Jimmie will cover in his presentation. The next paragraph, developmental design standards are to be inserted at the end of plan sets as applicable. When they are included in bridge plan sets, developmental design standards are to be inserted before existing bridge plans if they are present, and developmental design standards are to be listed in the index of sheets for the plan's component in which they are included. The governing specifications and standards note shall not be shown on the key sheets of component plans that are listed on the lead key sheet of the plan set. And then it refers you to Exhibits 3-1 and Exhibit KS-1. And they give examples on how they're shown. The next section that we're looking at is Section C. We need to revise the Plans Preparation Manual Volume 2, Exhibit 3-1. The standard key sheet note shall read as follows. Number 3, the following shall be used on all projects. Title, Governing Standards and Specifications. The Florida Department of Transportation, and in this case it will be the 2013 Design Standards and Revised Index Drawings as appended herein, and the 2013 Standard Specifications for Road and Bridge Construction as amended by contract documents. For the design standards, click on the Design Standards link at the following website, and then the website's noted below. And then right below that, for the standard specifications for road and bridge construction, click on the specifications link at the following website, and then that website is also noted. There was a note 4 that did not apply anymore, so item D revises the Plans Preparation Manual, Volume 2, and standard key sheet notes to delete key sheet note number 4. And then item E revises the Plans Preparation Manual, Volume 2, Exhibit KS-1, standard key sheet notes, and then it says to see the attachment for the Exhibit KS-1. And Jimmie will have the Exhibit KS-1, and he'll show you that when he goes through his presentation portion. As far as implementation, beginning with January 13 lettings, revised index drawings with an effective date of January 1 or later shall be included in the contract plans per the procedure noted above. Now, we have done some work on the verbiage here, and it has changed somewhat for the Plans Preparation Manual that's going to be coming up in January. And the section that we're looking at here is Section 3.6.1, which is the revised index drawings. The verbiage has now been revised to, when revisions to the design standards are released by Design Bulletin, the engineer shall determine which revised index drawings apply to the project and shall incorporate those index drawings into the plan set. Those revised index drawings shall be listed on the lead key sheet, and that's on the left side below the last sheet listed on the index of plans and above the governing standards and specification notes as follows. And then it shows you the list of revised index drawings, index number, and sheet number. The next section that we're going to look at is Section 3.8, the governing standards and specifications. The year of the governing design standards and the standard specifications for road and bridge construction shall be inserted in a note at the lower left corner of the contract plan's lead key sheet. The design standards are published and released on July 1 each year as an annual e-booklet posted on the Roadway Design Office website. The release of the design standards e-booklet is announced by Design Bulletin, which specifies the effective date for implementation of January 1 each year. Revisions to the design standards e-booklet produced by the department between regularly scheduled releases are implemented by issuing design bulletins for all applicable revised index drawings. The appropriate revised index drawing number with associated sheet number shall be listed on the lead key sheet as shown in Section 3.6.1. Revisions to the Design Standards e-booklet will be issued by Design Bulletin on an as-needed basis to effect changes of immediate concern. The Design Bulletin will specify effective date of implementation, the revised index drawings, any applicable instructions for design standards, and the Design Bulletin, which implement these revisions, are issued in portable document format and posted on the Roadway Office Design website under the Design Standards webpage and under the Design Standards revisions. Revised index drawings are to be inserted at the end of the plan sets as applicable. Developmental design standards are to be inserted at the end of plan sets as applicable. When they are included in bridge plan sets, developmental design standards are to be inserted before existing bridge plans if they are present. Developmental design standards are to be listed in the index of sheets for the plan component for which they are included. The governing specifications and standards note shall not be shown on the key sheets of component plans that are listed on the lead key sheet of each plan set. Exhibits 3-1 and KS1 give examples on how to show this note. I have several questions that came up that I'd like to go over, and maybe by reading those questions and then providing the answers, that might help clarify some of the other issues that we were having. On September 4th, I had a question that came to me, and the question reads, on the key sheet, do we only need to add revised index number under the list of revised index drawings if it applies to our project? And the answer to that was yes. Do not include a blank list of revised index drawings header, as it does not apply. That question came up also. They wanted to know that if there were none that applied to the project, do we still list the heading? No, you do not. If there's none that apply to that project, there's no need to add the list of revised index drawing header. Another question came up, and it asked me to please clarify the following. Does appended, as stated in the design bulletin, indicate the interim standards listed on the key sheet shall also be included within the plan set? My response was yes. Appended does mean to include these revised index drawings in the plan set, and then I also provided some additional information. The term interim standards no longer applies. These are revised index drawings. The third question that came up, in the example below, I don't see the effective date shown. Has the requirement to show this date been changed? The requirement to show the date was changed. An effective date for implementation is delivered via the design bulletin. There is no requirement to place an effective date on the revised index drawings on the lead key sheet. And then the last question that I have, if we have a revised index drawing to include, are we not going to count it as a sheet in the plans? It's not actually a sheet in the plans under the normal listing of the roadway plan set, but it is included electronically in the plan so that if anybody needs to print it for use in the field, they'll have it available. And then the second question was, if we do not have a revised index drawing that is applicable to the project, do we still need to show the label of the list of revised index drawings? And the answer to that is no. If none apply to your project, you do not show the list of revised index drawings, and you do not include anything on your sheets. That's all I have relative to the bulletin itself, and also to the revised verbiage that's going to come out in the plans preparation manual for January. The information that I've shown you here in this document has not been released and will not be released until it's actually available for everybody out there. But I did want to show that the verbiage has been significantly revised, hopefully to help better clarify some of the issues we were having with the design bulletin. Okay, at this point, I guess I have a question here. I'm going to see if I can take a look at the question really quick. Okay, I have a question from Mitch Cannon. It says, if a revised index is for signing and pavement marking, the list goes on the key sheet of the lead plans, where would the drawings go behind the signing and pavement marking or at the end of the lead plans? They will always go behind the set of the lead plans. Another question, it says, in reference to revised index drawings which are applicable to the project, does this mean applicable due to the revision date or if the index to be used in the project? This is a very good question. It refers directly to if the index is being used. So in our case, for the 2013 design standards, we have the index 11871, which is a medium mounted barrier wall. If you have that on your project, and that's something that you're including, whether it's in the MOT phase for temporary, then you will want to include that on your lead key sheet. If it doesn't apply to your project, then you don't need to show the listing, and you do not need to list that index, and you do not need to append them to your project. I have another question. Is the revised index drawing signed and sealed, and if so, by whom? No, the revised index drawing is not signed and sealed. It's only, all design standards are certified in Tallahassee, and they're approved by the Federal Highway Administration for use on federal highway projects. The inclusion of the index goes into the engineering underbar data directory, and there's no actual signing and sealing of that sheet. It's just included in your electronic plans. There's a question, does this include design standards modified by the EOR? No. Anytime you're going to modify a design standard in your plans, then you have to generate, if you go back to the statement on the front, anytime when you go to the statement in the front of the design standards booklet, it tells you that anytime you deviate from the standards, you'll include details and or notes that are going to revise that standard. But that would already be included as part of your plan and component set, so there's no need for you to have a sheet that you're going to include separately other than the details that you would include in your plans anyway. Okay, then I have a question from Jeanette. Do we include the list of revised index sheets text cell onto the key sheet even if none of the revised index drawings apply to the project? The answer to that is no. If it doesn't apply, then you do not need to show that header and you do not list anything. And then there's a question about where the webinar can be downloaded. I think Jimmie will answer that when he's done with his portion of the presentation. I have a question from Irving Sterling. Are revised index drawings to be signed and sealed, and if so, by whom? I think we answered that one already. No, they are not signed and sealed. They're included in the engineering underbar data directory, and they're included as a component of electronic plans. When is the cutoff for adding revised index drawings at project let? The way we look and view these, whenever we issue a revised index drawing, we try to take into account the time factor of when the bulletin comes out and for which projects these would apply. So when you go to the design bulletin itself will have the actual implementation date on there. Okay, I think that concludes all of the questions that are online. If there's any additional questions, please feel free to send those through the webinar. And if we don't get to them, I'll make sure that I write a written response, and then those will be published as well. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jimmie Prow from the Engineering CAD Support Office. Thank you.
Okay, so the steps required for the electronic side of this are step 1, download the revised index drawing. Step 2, add the revised index to the key sheet. Step 3, print the key sheet postscript. Step 4, insert the revised index into the project index. Step 5, create the basic HTML index. Step 6 is to create the project PDF. And then step 7 is to rotate the project or the revised index in the project PDF. And we'll look at each of these in detail. I'm just going to use this PowerPoint to kind of keep us on track and step us through the process. So step 1, as I said, we want to download the revised index drawing. And the idea is to download the revised index drawing into the ENG data directory of the lead component, because that's where it's going to be shown in the plans. So to do that, I'm just going to swap over here to MicroStation, and we'll go ahead and download the revised index drawing. Under Standards, you'll see there's several links on our menu, and we'll go to the Office of Design Publications list. And this lists basically all of the Office of Design publications, and one of those being the design standards. So I can click on that page, and then I'll go and look at the revised index drawings. And currently there's just one revised index drawing, so we'll use this as an example. And I'm just going to right click on that revised index drawing, and I'm going to select Save Target As, and then save that into my ENG data directory. And I've already done this when we did Quick Clip, so I'm just going to overwrite that. And then we'll close that. So that's step 1. Step 2 was to include the note on your key sheet where you list the index of the revised indexes. And there's a couple ways to do that. One, you select Roadway, Sheets, Key Sheet, Keynote, Revised Index from the FDOT menu. Or you can actually just right-click in the key sheet file, and it'll give you some options, one of those being Revised Index Drawing, and place a cell from there. And then once you get the cell placed, you would then go in, enter the index number and sheet number of that index. So to do that, again, I can select Roadway, Sheets, Key Sheet, Keynote, Revised Index Drawing. That's going to pull up this note. Or I've got the option to right-click in here, and you'll see I've got all of the common stuff you've seen up there right on my right-click menu. I'm going to select Revised Index Drawing. And as John described, the note goes above the governing standards and below the index of plans. So I'm going to place it right here and then reset. So we get the note placed in the key sheet. Next we want to go ahead and label that. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and just select the regular place text command. One thing I noticed is that my active level is still on north arrow. So I want to go ahead and set my level. To do that, I'm just going to hold the Alt key down on my keyboard and click a piece of text that I want to match. You notice when I do that, it sets my symbology to match. That's just a shortcut for matching symbology. So now I can place the index number in there, and that was 11871. And we'll just place that right here. And then this is sheet 1. There's only one sheet in this index, so it's sheet 1 of 11871. And I'll place the sheet number there. Reset, close this down. And that's really all there is to step 2. So I'm going to go ahead and close MicroStation. And we don't want to save that. And that brings us to step 3. Step 3 is to print the key sheet postscript. If you've already created a postscript file for the key sheet, of course, you're going to have to recreate that and overwrite that. To do this, you're going to start EDI, open the project. On the Sheet Files tab, you can just right-click on the key sheet file and select Create Plot Files All. So I'm going to go to the electronic delivery desktop, and I'm going to launch EDI 2. And we'll select yes there. So I'm going to go to the Sheet Files tab, go to the Roadway folder, and you see my key sheet's been modified. It's amber. It's warning me that the key sheet's been opened since it was last printed. So I'm just going to right click on that and say Create Plot Files All. It's also warning me, in this case, it's warning me that the key sheet's been signed and sealed. This was just a sample project we'd used for other classes, so I'm just going to say that's fine, we'll overwrite this. Normally, if that was the case, you would have to go back and re-sign and seal the postscript after you created it. So that should have created the postscript file. If we go in here, I should be able to display that image. Yes, so that's recreated the postscript file, and you see the new note on the key sheet. So that completes step 3. Step 4 is to insert the revised index drawing into the project index. And this, again, is in EDI. You will go and select on the Image Files tab, and then you're going to drag and drop the revised index into the lead component of the plans. In this case, it's going to be Roadway. So if I go back to EDI here, and let's just go to Go back to my Windows here and go into the project viewer. I want to go to Image Files tab, and you'll see that the revised index drawing is in black here at the bottom of the index. I can just drag and drop this right into my roadway plan set, and now when I scroll down here, you see it's listed at the bottom of the roadway plans. The next part of step 4 is you'll want to go in and edit the properties of that, because it's going to come in with just the default information. So you'll go in, select index step by step, step 5, the index editor. Then you'll select the revised index drawing and update the sheet number and description, and then save that. So to do that, again, we can go index step by step, step 5, index editor. And if we look through the index, you'll see that that one's listed in red. We just added sheet 40 here. That's the, you can see that's the revised index drawing we downloaded. We want to give it a sheet number. And the sheet naming convention for the revised index is to begin with revised index drawing, RID, then a dash, and the index number, in this case 11871, dash, and the sheet number of the index that's been revised. And again, this is sheet 1 of this index that's been revised. So this will be the sheet number for the revised index drawing. And then we'll just update the description to be revised index drawing. And then click Save. So that completes step 4. Now we've inserted the revised index into the project index. So the next thing we want to do is step 5 is to create the basic HTML index. And this creates the sheet index.htm, and that's done by selecting index step by step, step 6. We'll go ahead and do that now. If I go back to EDI, or go back to EDI here, we'll go to index step by step, step 6, basic HTML index, and create. And it's going to ask me if this project is a component of a strung project, and in this case it's not, so I'm going to select no. And if we scroll down, you'll see that the revised index has been added. It's got the sheet number as what we entered into the EDI and the new description. If I click on that, you'll see that it's actually pulling that up from my projects directory. So all that's linked in now. I'll go ahead and close that. That completes step 5. Step 6, create the project PDF. And to do this, that's going to be in the drop down there. You'll select index step by step, step 7, which is the project PDF. And you'll want to select the create option there. So if I go back to EDI, select index step by step, and step 7 here, project PDF, create. And this is warning me that the file already exists. Do I want to overwrite? I'll say OK. And it'll go in and it'll compile all those PostScript files and include the revised index in there as well and compile those all together. And when it's complete, it'll ask if I want to keep the intermediate PostScript file. In this case, I'm going to say no. And do I want to display this in the default PDF viewer? I'll go ahead and say yes here so we can see what happened. So you'll see if I open up the thumbnails tab here, we've got our project plans. We can rotate this counterclockwise to see all our sheets upright. And it's got the whole plan set in here. And we'll just scroll down to sheet 40. There we go. And you'll notice that the revised index comes in rotated differently than the others. That's just the way the CAD sheets are printed, and then the the difference between the way the CAD sheets are printed as to the way the PDF is created for the indexes. So to address that, we'll look at step 7. This is the rotate the revised index in the project PDF. And as I said, they just have a different rotation, so you'll just need to go in and rotate that manually. If I go to, I think I've got a folder here. If we go in and open that project PDF using Adobe Acrobat, we can just select that index. And I'll right click on that, and we'll select, where's it at? Rotate pages. And we're going to rotate those. Say we want to go clockwise 90 degrees. And now you can see the sheets are all rotated in the same direction. I'll go ahead and save this file, close that, and that completes the process. So we'll go back over a few of the questions here that were popping up. Let's see. Looks like most of them have been answered. Our district is not implemented MR3 yet, so let's see. So we don't have the options on the site menu. You'll just have to. We've got. That's a good point. We've got an update to MR3. This is actually a post MR3 update. If we go to, I'm going to go ahead and close this down for a minute. If we go to the Start menu and go to FDOT 2000, All Programs, FDOT 2010, let's see if we got a link to it here. No, it's not in there. So let's go ahead and go back into MicroStation. I'll show you a shortcut for getting to that. Close some of this stuff down. We've got updates for the revised index drawings out on our Bentley community site. And there's a couple ways to access that. And I'm going to show you one way from inside of MicroStation. If you look on the standard menu, there's going to be a ECSO staff, go to meetings, training resources, the FDOT CAD support forum. And on this FDOT CAD support forum, we got a Bentley Communities page out there, and we've got a Files Download tab. On the Files Download tab, you'll see a FDOT 2010 Post MR3 Updates link. And this is going to be a list of all the files that have been updated due to fix bugs or for enhancement requests or changes like this to the design standards. And you can come out here and download updates in between maintenance releases. So in this case, you'll see the revised index drawing update. You can come here and download that, and or in your case, have your CAD manager download that and just apply this to the server as described here in the instructions, and then you'll have all the options that you've seen here today. Another question, how can we obtain a copy of the PowerPoint? I'm going to include this with the documentation and the recording of the webinar. Another question is, should the last number be 01 to allow for more than 10 sheets in an index? Yes, it could be 01. I believe in the quick clip I showed it as 01. When I looked at the actual revised index drawing in this case, though, it was listed as, let's see, that would have been in the roadway, in the sheets, or the ENG data directory. When I actually looked at the revised index drawing there, it just had 1 listed, so I listed it just as it was in the drawing. But 01 could be included as well. Next question is, so the only index that we appended are the only ones that have been revised by the designer. That's I don't believe that's worded quite right. We don't really revise the index. The revised indexes are provided by the Roadway Design Office. The only ones we include in the plans, as we've shown here today, are ones that apply to this plan set. Now, in the example here, it was just the only one available, so I used that. But if that revised index drawing applies to your project, then you would have to go through this process. So if you've got a single post median barrier mounted sign support, and this index applies to your project, then you would need to include this. Okay. Next question, will EDI and the project PDF as edited after creation and possibly not up to date after the rotation of the index sheet? So the question is, will EDI show the project PDF as edited after the rotation? Well, if you was to recreate the PDF with EDI, it's going to rotate it back. But if you just open or display the PDF through there, then it's going to show what's saved in the file. It's not going to go back and rechange that after you've rotated it, unless you reprint it. Do we include revised index even if we are not using them in our plans? The question to that is no. You only include the revised index drawings if it is part of the, or if it's going to be utilized in the plan set. If we have multiple revised index sheets, can they be a single PDF like existing bridge plans? If there are multiple sheets revised in one index, and maybe John can reply to this one with a little bit more information, but if there are multiple sheets in a single index, then that might be in one PDF. But if they're just multiple different index numbers, I assume they're going to be in separate PDFs, so they would be included separately.
Yes, the intent there is that when you have a revised index drawings, let's say we had 3 of them that were out there, and they were 3 separate indexes that were being revised. Only one of those may apply to your project, so you're only going to need that specific drawing. 2 of them may apply, so you're going to download the 2, and if all 3 apply, you would download all 3. So to include them in a single PDF, I don't know that that would be advantageous, because it just isn't going to apply to every project that's out there. Once you have the revised index drawings, and each one of them are included as Jimmie outlined in his presentation, it's just a matter of clicking on them and putting them in the right order and making sure that the indexes are, the sheet number is labeled correctly and that they just show up in that dialog box. So as far as putting them into one PDF, once it's incorporated into the project PDF, then it is a component of the one PDF. So I don't know that it would be an advantage to anybody to have everything as one. And the way our website's set up right now, it's not conducive of how we have it located on the website page interface. So to answer the question, I don't believe we would do that. It would just be on a project by project basis. You have to choose the ones that apply and include those as you outlined.
Okay, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question, does the key sheet cell after post MR3 have the governing standard note updated? Yes, we have updated the governing standard note to reflect the language now defined in the plans preparation manual. So if we go to, let's just look, roadway sheets, key sheet with map. I'm just going to place a key sheet cell. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Got in a hurry there. Let's just do it this way. FDOT cell web pages. It's just like everything else in MicroStation. There's 12 ways to do it. If we look at the key sheet cell and just place any one of these, you'll see there that the revised or the governing standards and specification notes been updated. Okay. Should we expect any errors in a file checker with this? Well, I never expect errors in any file checker, but no, it's all, if you've got the update applied, it's all correct. I mean, the cells don't get checked by QC as long as you're using the right levels for your labeling, which is why I showed how you can apply symbology correctly. You won't get QC errors. Everything should go through clean. Okay, in the project index, you showed revised index drawing in the block in addition to the page number. Would it not be appropriate to add the text for the actual title of the revised index drawing? And then they gave a description of a title, so anyone checking the sheet can know what it is. You could, I guess, do that. It's just that some of those titles are very long. They'll take up, 3 full wide lines on a title block, and to have that listed out in the HTML index would just, be kind of out of place. Okay, next question. Does the key sheet cell after the post MR3? Oh, we've already answered that one. Let me scroll down a little bit. I think we're just about caught up. So the last question here, if I can't trust the contractor to find the actual revised standard index on your website and have to include it in the plans, then how can I trust the contractor to find the standard index on your website? Shouldn't I then include the standard index in my plans also? I'm not really sure I understand that one. It's included in the back of the lead set of plans. Maybe you're referring to a component set of plans, and why isn't it included in there? That's just the way it was decided to be applied.
Jimmie, I got an answer for that one.
Okay.
By the governing standards and specifications note, it tells you on there that the applicable standards are the 2013 design standards, and the contractor has to go to the website to be able to download all of those. He also has access to the revised index drawings, but since this is something out of the ordinary that's been changed during the regular annual cycle, it was decided that we would include only the revised index drawings and list those and append those to the project. The information, the contractor can go to our website and get the entire 2013 design standards in one PDF, or he can download them separately if he needs to. So that is always available to them, whether they elect to do that or not, or they don't jump through those hoops. That's up to the different contractors and I guess the CEIs and the people out in construction. But the main thing is that the information is available, and by the governing standards and specifications note, the 2013 design standards are included as part of that component.
Had a question here whether Adobe Acrobat will be installed for all project engineers to rotate the revised index drawing. That's really an OIS decision and a software licensing decision. So that's between you and your OIS contact. Does the department have a preference as to whether to keep the shading on the key sheet maps, or can we turn that off? And I believe you're referring to like the shaded maps there. I usually turn that off with the pin table. So like if I go here to Control P, you'll see by default it's just shows a solid block. But when I apply the new, let's just attach. When I apply the FDOT TBL, it's got code in the pin table to turn off all fill only in the key sheet, or only in the key map reference. So you'll notice that fill is turned on for my arrow heads, but it's turned off for my map. And that's the way I personally apply that. Okay, I believe that's got all the questions. I want to thank everybody for attending.